Welcome to How to Talk to Kids About Anything with Dr. Robyn Silverman, a podcast loaded with practical tips, powerful scripts, personal stories, and simple steps to make even the toughest conversations easier. So get ready to get the information you need to make the impact you want from someone you trust, your friend, parenting expert, Dr. Robyn Silverman.
Hello and welcome to How to Talk to Kids About Anything, where we give you the tips, scripts, stories, and steps to make even the toughest conversations easier. I'm so honored to be your host, Dr. Robyn Silverman, child and teen development specialist, author, and speaker, and most importantly, parent of two great kids who give me the opportunity to love, learn, and grow every single day, whether I want to or not. Believe me, I get it. It's not always easy, but we're in this together, and we have some great people helping us along the way. Now, the pandemic is still going strong, and the date to open many states is being pushed out further and further. The date to open countries is being pushed out further and further. I know that some spots have been starting to open here and there, but many parents still feel a lot of anxiety about going back to quote-unquote normal, even as COVID-19 has claimed over 250,000 lives across the world, nearly 100,000 of them in the U.S. What's going on is impacting young children, older children, and yes, parents too. Of course, parents do. There are questions of financial issues, emotional issues, mental issues, loneliness, fear, frustration, and how in the world we are all going to cope with this day-to-day as the day-to-day morphs into months and months. It puts a lot on our shoulders, so let's not bury it. Let's discuss it. Time to shine a light on what's really going on behind these closed doors. For this discussion, I'm interviewing Graeme Seabrook. Graeme Seabrook, the Mom for Moms, is a coach and writer who has been guiding and supporting mothers as they discover and reclaim themselves since 2014. She has worked with over 2,500 moms since 2014, and in between clients, she reads about moms, writes about moms, speaks about moms, learns about moms, and is a mom herself. Her work springs from the truth that embracing your humanity is a mother's deepest calling and the very best thing you can do for your family. Now, even though Graeme counsels moms, the information that we're talking about today applies to parents everywhere. This is such a strange time, and we are all in this together. So welcome, Graeme Seabrook, to How to Talk to Kids About Anything.
Thank you so much. And I have to tell you, I was trying so hard not to laugh when you said whether we want to or not.
Yes.
That is 100% my life right now.
It's 100% everybody's life right now. Like, here's
feel
the
like
kids.
Growing, Robyn. I don't want to grow. I just want to take a nap.
I know. And it's like, I don't want to cook. I just want to sit and eat chocolate. You know, a lot of people are just baking, and, you know, there's this one woman that I know that literally is baking something new every single day. It always looks unbelievably delightful and delicious. And I'm like, wow, like she got it all together there. Like she actually like did it. But then, you know, you don't know the behind the scenes. Like maybe she's just so crazed and fed up that she's like, I'm baking. So we don't know what's going on.
Yes. Yeah, and that's actually kind of me. We are baking a lot.
It's so awesome. Baking is great. But before we get into all of our, you know, good stuff today, for those who haven't had the opportunity to meet you and read your articles or hear you speak about all the great stuff you speak about, can you tell us what gets you up in the morning and what got you so interested in talking about and supporting moms?
Well, really, moms are what get me up in the morning. I have a group called the Mom Center, and every morning I give them a prompt or ask them a question or have an idea for them. And so even on my days off, that was totally in air quotes, everybody. I wake up and I'm like, oh, the moms, what do I want to talk about? I don't know, you know, and have to come up with something. So quite literally, moms are what get me up in the morning, every single morning. But my journey started during my own pregnancy, my first pregnancy. I got perinatal depression and anxiety very early in the pregnancy, but I had no idea that's what it was. I thought I was just hormonal, also air quotes. Because that's what they tell women who get pregnant, right? Oh, it's the hormones. Even though I was crying constantly and having panic attacks, that's totally normal. It's hormone.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't feel normal, but okay.
This doesn't feel normal. This doesn't sound like anything any of my friends had gone through. But it was my first kid and I had no idea what was up. I had no clue. And neither did Adam. We were both kind of, we were just feeling our way through the whole thing. He knew something was wrong with me way more than I did. Because he was watching me just turn into a totally different person right in front of him every day. And that I had a very traumatic birth, and it ended in an emergency C-section, and it was it was really, really scary. So then after that, I thought, oh, well, this was just a really scary thing. It will get better, right? But I wasn't having any of the feelings that I had heard about of motherhood. I didn't have that moment where you stare in your baby's eyes and you feel more love than you've ever, I didn't ever have that moment, right? And so the months go by and I was just getting more and more angry about everything all the time. And I think the thing that tripped it for Adam especially was when it's not funny, but it really is. I yelled at him. I mean, screaming yelled at him for about 10 minutes because he closed the door wrong.
Oh, gosh.
When he came home he closed the door wrong.
Okay.
He was obviously...
He was in the wrong, clearly, in that moment, with the closing of the door in the way that he did. He
kind of just waited it out with this look on his face you have lost it.
Yes.
All of whatever it is. He just waited it out. And then when I was done and I had calmed down and I was sobbing, because that was usually how it ended, he was just like, okay, babe, I think we need to get some help. So then fast forward to therapy and medication and more therapy and exercise and diet changes and more therapy and medication changes and all of those, it's a process, right? And through all of that, and then it's about a year later, I'm starting to feel much, much better. I have my life under control and my brain is starting to make sense and my emotions are starting to make sense. And I'm looking back over our whole experience and Adam and I are better. And, and I saw a list of, there was a organization called Postpartum Support International, and they had a list of risk factors for postpartum depression, anxiety, OCD, psychosis, all of it. And I'm looking at it, and it was 10 little check boxes, right? And Robyn, I checked 8 of them. And he was sitting there wait a minute, do you mean to tell me I just lost nearly 2 years of my life, right? And if somebody had told me, then I could have done something about it, doing this extra, all of the things I was doing, right, to help myself feel better, right? So I got really, really angry,
right?
And I got really involved in in advocacy for maternal mental health, and so that again, that helped me to feel better, right? And through this whole thing, as I'm feeling better and better and better, I'm waiting for motherhood to make sense, where it all becomes clear and I know what I'm doing and I know how to do it.
Oh, gosh, when does that happen?
Why?
Everything becomes clear and we know what we're doing.
But I really thought that all of my issues with being a mom were because of the PPD. Which, I mean, logic, when you're looking back on it, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? I didn't know that it was motherhood that was hard. I thought that once I got everything under control, it would clear up. It would make, it'd be okay.
And you decided to become a helper to other people.
Well, I started asking other moms, when is this gonna work? When is this gonna make sense? I was so naive, and I started looking around, and I honestly, I got really angry. I was like, wait a minute. I understood that it was hard when I was going through a mental illness. I was battling something. Yeah, that's gonna be hard, sure. Why is it just hard?
Because that's not what they show in the commercials, where the baby is comforted and the mother is always happy and looks great and the hair is done.
That was not what any of my mom or my aunts or my friends. That wasn't part of the conversation. And the more moms that I talked to, which I had access to a lot of moms because of my advocacy, the more moms I talked to, the more I realized this was like universal.
And this is what started the work that you were doing. Okay.
That's where the anger all came from. We can do things differently. There are no rules.
Yes, and that's what I feel like that's what we're going to be talking about today. I think it's important, given that this pandemic is so hard on everyone and each person's frustration and anger and sadness, and they have like a swirling vortex of feelings. Everything is very real, and it is normal to feel all these things, but this new normal is not normal. We've got the kids home 24/7. We're helping with schoolwork. We're in charge of meals. So many meals. My gosh, these kids eat the snacks, arguments that we've got to deal with. Our families changing feelings. We've got playtime stuff and playmates and play dates and screen use and more than ever before.
I need a nap.
Yeah, I mean, just saying it makes me need a nap. And at least, I mean, perhaps it's been years since we've been filling these needs for our children because, you know, like a lot of people are listening right now. It's like not, you know, babies. Like we're so we haven't been like attending to everything. So meanwhile, like, so parents are trying so hard to keep the day-to-day as normal as possible for their kids, to work, to keep up with school, to manage the upheaval and the intense emotions that everybody's feeling. So what's your best advice to them?
Stop doing that.
Stop doing that.
I'm so serious. There is no possible way. Okay, say you have a teenager, right, who is used to going to school and being in multiple classes with different people every day and seeing possibly hundreds of peers every day in one way or another. Hallways, classes, lunch, right? They are now in a house with you, maybe another parent, maybe some siblings, maybe some pets. In what way can you replace hundreds of people and tens of teachers? In what way can you do that? How can you do that?
No, it's a really valid point.
For you to try to do that. You can't do that. The things that they are missing, whether they're a teen, whether they're a tween, whether they're like my kids are still really young, but they are aching for their friends. And talking to them on a Zoom call. My son's he's 6, he's in first grade. There's like 20 first graders every Monday morning on a Zoom call. And it is the most adorable thing ever. And he's really sad afterwards every single Monday. Because it's not the same.
No, it's not the same.
That is not going down a slide and playing pretend.
Right.
That is not the same thing, right? And so for all of our kids, it's the same as the way a lot of us who were working in offices are just missing the office. You're missing the person that comes and interrupts you and has the conversation while you were doing something else, right? We're missing human interaction. Missing people other than our families. Like one of my really good friends just said, I want to talk to somebody I'm not related to.
No, I feel like this is so valid. Like being home 24/7 and occasionally venturing out to like a grocery store to see people from a distance. This is not like a get together or a party. It's fascinating, but you can be around people in your home or in a store or even out walking at a park and feel really lonely. And
so lonely.
Yeah, so lonely. And we have no idea when this is going to end. So that like puts this extra added layer of feeling sort of trapped and lonely at the same time. So many, like I said, many states aren't even talking about opening up for months. So that makes for a lot of lonely time for our kids, for us, lonely people. And you talk about having a support system. You talk about, you know, having other people for our kids. So can you discuss how we can manage the specific loneliness that happens when you are surrounded by people but aren't really seeing the people you might really need, as you mentioned, like the person at the office or whatever, you need to see during this pandemic?
Part of it, the biggest part of it for me is recognizing it and being honest about it. Being honest with my kids about it, being honest with Adam about it, being honest with myself about it might have been the hardest part. You know, we do a really good job, a lot of us, in taking care of the other people in our lives and recognizing what their needs are and saying like, oh, babe, I think you need to call your best friend and have a conversation. And I'm going to take the kids for the afternoon. So you guys can just have like a virtual game night or whatever. Do that, right? At the same time, I really needed to talk to my friends, and I wasn't even saying that to myself, right? So a lot of it is just being honest. Yeah. Even when you are stating a need that you know you cannot have met. I need to leave my house. I need to drive into my mountains and go into a park and spend time by myself. And I cannot do that. The parks are closed. It's not, I could drive up there, but I'd just have to turn around and come back. But saying that out loud, that is a thing that I need, releases some of the pressure, right? And so when I was talking to my son, like I said, is 6, when I was talking to him about missing his friends, we did a little brainstorming about, you know, would you like to call somebody? Would you like to go and ride bikes? One of his friends lives on our street. And I was like, well, you guys could ride bikes together. You can't touch each other and we'd have to be careful, but I could take a walk and you guys could ride your bikes and, you know. And he just looked at me and he said, but I want to hug him.
Yes. Oh, that's like, we've heard this term skin hunger. Like you, and I totally agree. We're a very huggy family, thankfully, but I mean, my mom came over for Mother's Day and we sat at separate tables in my backyard. So she was like about 15 feet, away. And we were all like, we were in like a very large circle. There was like 7 of us. We're in this very large circle, sort of spread out, far away from each other. And it's sad. I mean, it was really good that we could talk to her. And she was like, I'm so grateful that I got to see you. But like, what? I can't like hug my mother. And I haven't done that in months. And she's alone. I mean, she has her, like, best friend lives next door, but, like, what the heck, man? Yeah. This is not good. And, you know, the science tells us that, like, you need a certain number of hugs per day. Yeah. And I'm like, what about that for health? Like, talk about health, like mental health and physical health. We need that. 100%. So frustrating.
And he has even told me, he's like, Mommy, I don't want to hug you. I hug you a lot.
Yes.
He's over it. He's over me.
Yeah. I think everybody's getting over each other.
Like, we've been doing this since early March.
Yeah, like March 13th or something.
Yeah. Well, he's over it. Yeah. And so a lot of it is, one thing that I've tried to do is rotate the people that I talk to. I do not have, with the exception of one person, I don't have standing appointments where I talk to this friend every week. It's just, you need some variety, right?
You do. I think I'm not doing that extremely well. I feel like I'm looking at what's happening and I feel like it's kind of, what I'm seeing is a lot of people just sort of fell away in terms of like people that I may have talked to occasionally or through my kids, because the kids are friends and then you go over there and like the play dates and then you wound up talking like that sort of fell away, and it just left a couple of people. And I wound up making a phone call the other day to a friend who I hadn't talked to in a while. It was delightful. Like we were so excited to talk to each other, and I was like, okay, like we need to do this more often,
and I think sometimes we let ourselves feel like, oh, I haven't talked to her in, a month. I can't call now.
Right. Because you feel like awkward.
If I haven't been supporting them throughout this entire pandemic, how can I call now? Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Yeah, because everybody gets it too. Like, we've all been busy trying to just status quo ourselves here. Like I don't know. We're just trying. You know what I want to ask you about? Like, in recent years, we've talked a lot about anxiety, and we've done, and you mentioned it before, when we've done some interviews where we've discussed anxiety in this podcast. I'm thinking about Lisa D'Amour's interview, which centered on anxiety in girls. We did 2 podcasts with Karen Young, who focus on anxiety and things like when bad things happen, 2 podcasts with Dawn Hebner. We also did that on anxiety in children. During this very strange situation of uncertainty and illness and disruption in schedules, for people who have anxiety and those who have kids with anxiety, this can be a really triggering time. And I'm thinking, on top of like your son not being able to hug his friends, and I love that you're brainstorming with him like ways that we can cope with it. But what are we doing to deal with the anxiety at this time? I think you said in one of your videos, it's the side order of fries, that it comes with everything. So
it's not delicious like fries.
No. So like what are some ideas and tips for those people listening in who have to cope with anxiety on top of the sort of need to see one another?
Yeah. For us, 3 of the 4 folks in my house have anxiety. And just to put a cherry on top, we feed off of each other. We're all very, it's not really internalized as much as like one gets going and then all 3 of us are humming, We're like dominoes that fall. So that's fun. That's a good time. Everybody should do that.
Thank you for that recommendation. So diversify who you're talking to and feed off of each other's anxiety. Got it.
So
just to put high beams on that. Thank you.
Yeah. But one of the things that has really helped, I have pulled back on my social media use hardcore.
Oh, yes. I remember you saying that. Like,
I am not on Facebook anymore at all.
It's really hard to see like these people who are flourishing in the pandemic, and the pictures are stunning, and they're taking rides through the park, and they're like learning Chinese and like different languages, and they're
creating art,
masterpieces.
And that's wonderful. I am so happy for them.
And that is amazing that they're I'm so grateful for this extra time that I have to really spend this time with my children. And I'm like, I'm not as there. Like I'm still trying to figure out, the balance of everything. And these people seem to be like just doing it so well, and it can get really under your skin and like frustrating. And
I got off of everything. I am, and then I ironically downloaded a bunch of games on my phone, so that I could kind of check out in little manageable chunks. I could check out in little 5-minute chunks and go in to some game and feed my chickens and cows and my wool, make a sweater, and then I pop back out, right? So these little moments of escape. And then I have something that I've been doing from the very beginning. It was something that my therapist and I put together when I was, this is like 2013-ish, 2012, a long time. And it's called a comfort kit. And mine is a shoebox, but yours can be literally anything. One of my clients that I did this with uses a pillowcase. So really anything that you have in your house that can be a container. And what you put into it is at least one thing for each of your 5 senses that is calming or soothing or comforting or makes you happy or brings you joy. Mine has a little note card with a bunch of different podcasts that are almost all of them are comedy podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
Just straight laughs. Like these are things that are going to make you laugh. You don't have to think. You're not going to learn. You're just going to giggle, right?
We don't need that learning aspect here.
I can't right now.
Right.
It's not a thing I can do. So I have some essential oils in there that smell really good. I have a scrap of a t-shirt that is the t-shirt my dad was wearing when I was born, actually.
That's so sweet.
And so it's like 40 years old. It was literally falling apart, right? But it has like the raised, the printing on it, because it said Stanford University, because that's where I was born. And that, just feeling that like running my hands over that is very soothing for some reason. No idea why, but it's in there. There's also little pieces of fabric that I've used for other things that have different textures are in there. There's always snacks. There's always pink Starburst and little things of salt and vinegar chips. There's always snacks in there. There are little notes and reminders that I've made for myself that, your feelings are real and valid, but that doesn't make them true. Just little things.
I like it. It's kind of like Wendy Young I interviewed on dealing with big feelings, and she has the kids create a mad box with like Play-Doh to pound and, coloring books and, stuffed animals and all the different senses too. I like that idea. That's interesting to extend it to yourself in a different way.
It's really helpful. And originally it started because I'm sure the folks out there who have panic attacks will understand this. You get like a hangover after a bad anxiety day, or even a bad bout of depression or a panic attack. There's this like hangover that happens afterwards. And so originally the comfort kit was to shorten that hangover period. What can I go and access right away that I know works? Whenever I would find something that worked, I would add it to the box,
that's nice.
Right? It's because you might need a different thing on a different day.
Right.
You never know what you need. And that's why I tried to cover as wide and broad, all five senses, multiple things for each one. And just, it's a collection now. What has kind of shifted is that now it's not so much for the hangover. At this point, I have one, Adam has one, our 6-year-old has one, our 4-year-old doesn't have a specific thing. She's just got stuff that we know is helpful. We haven't pulled it all together yet. We used to have them in closets and like right up on a shelf, so accessible but not in your face.
Right, sure.
Right. Now they sit in our kitchen, dining room, and living room is all just kind of one big room. So they sit on the dining room table.
I like it. I like
They're right there all the time. And sometimes I'll just, in the morning, just open mine and leave it open all the time so that I try to cut down every barrier possible between me noticing that I need something and using it. Right? Because I can get really wrapped up in the kids, and I don't take comfort for myself. Right?
I like the idea of thinking in a time when you are grounded and calm about the things that help you when you're feeling anxious and frustrated.
Exactly.
And then and putting those together so that when you do, start to feel really anxious or frustrated, that you have a go-to to deal with it. I mean, some of these types of things they're talking about, like, comedy or something that inspires one of your senses that's calming or makes you laugh is the thing that will knock it out before it gets overwhelming.
And I think it works for anybody. It doesn't have to just be anxiety. Like we are in this long-term global traumatic period, right? Everybody is in some type of pain. So, just make a list of all of your favorite shows that are on Netflix. Write them down somewhere so that when you're starting to feel antsy and you don't know what to do, you can be like, oh, right, Community exists. Right. I can go watch it.
Right.
Because we forget.
Right.
When we're in pain, a lot of times we forget what will help. We think the only thing that will help is if I could go to my mom's house and give her a hug.
So in the case of, your son saying, I really want to hug my friend and isn't able to do it and only able to ride his bike, in that moment, what is your solution for him, or what is his solution for himself?
Well, part of it has been me working for the last, he's almost 7, so working for the last 7 years to let go of the idea that my job is to make him happy.
Good point.
And that my job is to fix everything for him.
Mm-hmm.
my job is to support him as much as I humanly can and give him the tools to navigate the world. Right? So we talked about it, and I told him the truth. I can't let you hug him.
Right.
Sorry. It's not safe for him or his family, and it's not safe for you or our family or our whole community. And I gave him a hug while he cried, and I let him throw some rocks in the front yard because he was really angry, and he needed to, so he threw some rocks. And then he looked at me and he said, we could bake him some cookies.
Oh, see, like a different way of hugging somebody.
And I was like, yeah, dude, we could totally bake him some cookies. And then he got all wrapped up in the logistics, right?
Yes.
Because like we bake the cookies, and we have to put it in something, and then we have to take it to them and put it on their front door, and then we have to ring the doorbell. And I was like, well, no, dude, I have his dad's phone number. I can just call and let him know.
That's nice.
Cookies, and maybe he could just come out and get the cookies, and you could bring a cookie too, and you guys could both eat your cookies. If you want to do that.
Yes. Like it.
And, yeah, like it was this whole long thing. I mean, it took forever, but you know what? We're not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, we're home. So I like what you're talking about when he's got these big feelings. Because, kids have some big feelings right now. Yeah. We hear about them being sad and frustrated and angry and anxious. And I like that you're talking about like giving him a vehicle, like throwing rocks, to do something like that. And many people feel like they're in crisis mode. So like big feelings are to be expected. Right. So what can you say to kids when they are experiencing big feelings during this time, since we are really... most of us are dealing with this at some point or another during this pandemic?
So one of the things that I've been doing, this is kind of to head off the big, I think we're in big feelings 24/7.
Yeah, big feelings.
At least me, I wake up with big feelings, I go to bed with big feelings. I know my kids do too, right?
Sure.
And so every once in a while, I just look at him and I'm like, dude, this really sucks.
Right. It really sucks.
He gets really excited because that's not a word that before this was allowed to use in our house. Right. And I've been telling other parents this. I'm like, choose a word that's not going to, bother you too much. Especially if you've been strict around word usage or cursing or whatever, right? If there is a thing, a word that you can give them for how horrible this is.
Yes.
Cuss word light, right? Or if you're in a household where, that hasn't been a problem, I think you saying it, you owning it, when they see that we're not okay and we're not even pretending to be okay, and dude, this sucks. Like, he is excited that he gets to say the word sucks, and he also is really sometimes that's all he needs to hear, and he'll just look at me and nod and be like, yeah, mommy, yeah. Right? Goes back to his Legos or whatever it is.
Right.
Sometimes he wants to tell me the 10 million ways that it's horrible. Just opens the door for him to just pour all of those things out.
Right.
And our 4-year-old is catching on. I think she just likes to be able to say sucks.
Right.
For,
Right.
But sometimes she'll come up with her own list. She really is missing her grandparents right now. Hardcore. She's missing them a lot. And she does not have a good reaction to seeing them on Zoom or on,
right. That's not working for her.
Yeah, she likes it and she asks for it.
Yeah.
She wants to call and do like FaceTime stuff with them. And then whenever it's time for them to go, she fully breaks down and just cries.
Oh, sweet baby. Sweet baby. Oh.
Right. And as bad as it is for us, being the grandparents on the other end
so
of
stinky.
the line,
my mother is really, she is just, she's been expressing it too. Just this is really tough. Not being able to, because we don't see her often. We were seeing her often. We don't see her often. We've seen her twice in this, pretty much. Or there was one time when we saw her from like the door,
right.
where like went to the market for her and dropped something off, like, and you do a handoff while she's still in the car with masks on and gloves,
right?
And it was just, it's very sad knowing that it's both sides, that's really suffering right now. It's they are
really my parents and Adam's parents both. They just adore our kids. Mm-hmm. Adam and I have become fully redundant because we now have children, and they don't even need us,
because it's
right. We don't
yeah.
exist
right.
except as vehicles to care for their babies.
Yes, they're sweet babies. Yeah.
And they're hurting. They really are. They are hurting. They had an entire all of the grandparents were planning to come out here for my son's 7th birthday. They were going to take the kids to Great Wolf Lodge, which is like a kid resort.
Right. They love it there. Yes.
And paid for. They had those T-shirts. They had like T-shirts made.
No, they like really had to plan.
They were so pumped. And I talked to my mom last week, and she had canceled everything, and
of course. Yeah.
Thankfully, be able to get a full refund on everything. But they're just it is so painful on both sides. Yes. And for me as a mother and also as a child, seeing both sides of their pain is also, that's really hard for me.
And you feed off of each other too. Like, like it's sad for one person, it's sad for the other, and then it becomes sadness all around.
Yeah.
It's
so we have tried to do things like have theme Zooms. Like, we're gonna do a dance party.
Cute. Mm-hmm.
So that they get wrapped up in the I miss you, oh I miss you, oh I miss that spiral. Like,
that's not really productive there.
Yeah.
That's not feeding anybody's soul there.
Yep.
Okay. These are all important for our emotional health. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about I have a meeting today actually with the school. They are having like a big meeting for district-wide, and they wanted me to represent some of the parents. They've got a couple of us talking about how this is all working for our kids. Kids are definitely in different places when it comes to the schoolwork. I know some people feel like, this is easier, and the parents might feel that they're not getting enough work. Other people might feel like the work is too much and too hard during this strange crisis schooling time, and they worry that their kids are falling behind.
Yeah.
So you pose this question for parents to think about in one of your videos, which is, what is sustainable in my house for my kids and my family? And that's important to ponder. So I know you dealt with this issue of feeling like your child might fall behind with your own 6-year-old. Mm-hmm. So what did you experience, and what have you learned from this experience in terms of how to counsel a family and how to cope with this kind of situation of this feeling that the child might be falling behind?
Well, in our family, first of all, I come from a family of educators. Mm-hmm. All of my aunts were teachers. My dad was a teacher, a principal, a district superintendent, and ended up working at the State Department of Education. Mm-hmm. So I had it drilled into me from before I can remember. Mm-hmm. Certain things, like, we only get A's in this house.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, that excellence is expected at all times. And, that just that academics were the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for my son, kindergarten went great. First grade was a huge struggle.
People are they're talking about having struggles right now with first graders. Like, that is a theme for my friends.
Transitional year, right?
They have first graders.
6 to 7 is really, there's a lot of stuff.
It's tough. It's a tough year anyway. And with the pandemic, this is really, and my friends who are parents of kids who are first graders, and my friends who are teachers of
we are
first
not
graders
okay.
is very, very hard.
Check on us. We are not.
Yeah,
okay.
this is not easy. We don't know. Yes, I get it. I'm hearing this a lot.
It's the same for all of those transitional years, right? Like 5th into 6th grade, 8th into 9th, you know, like.
I have a 5th grader.
Right? Like
I have a 5th grader and a 4th grader. You know, the 5th grader is like missing out on so much. You know, she's really sad about missing out on the dance, the graduation, there's an endless list. So everybody's got their thing, but I know you were so concerned at one point. We were
hugely concerned.
He was falling behind, right?
Falling behind very early in the year. He was struggling really, really hard. We eventually, about 3 months in, got an ADHD diagnosis.
Sure.
And everything was like,
yeah, yep. I mean, that's the life we live to here. Yes.
It made so much more sense after that.
Absolutely.
And we are in an amazing school in a fantastic school district.
Oh,
look,
that's awesome.
If I could marry every single one of those people in that school, I would. I adore
that is such
them.
a very nice compliment. Wow.
I adore them.
Yeah.
They are fantastic. Before we had a diagnosis, before we knew anything, his teacher, his assistant principal, and his principal, and his kindergarten teacher were meeting, trying to think of ways to help him and brainstorm ideas. And they did that before they called us.
I love them.
They called us with like, okay, so we just had this meeting for about an hour and a half. Here's what we think is going on. Here's what we think could help him. What do you think are any of these terrible ideas? My jaw's on the floor. Okay?
Yes. It's always nice when the school district really goes the extra mile. I had gotten a call over the summer. My kids got, their teachers at the end of the summer, and they were like, we had several meetings about which teacher would be best for your son.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like they really thought about it. And I'll tell you, boy, did they get a winner. Like his teacher adores him and he adores his teacher, and it was a perfect match. They really, really thought about it. Wow.
Yeah, but this is what I feel like. This is what every single child needs and deserves from their school district and from their school, and it just breaks my heart that it's not happening.
No.
But he was having a really hard time with reading because he literally could not sit still long enough to read something, right? And especially at the very beginning, before it becomes automatic, reading is really layered and complicated.
Sure, absolutely.
You got to put like letters together, and then you've got to put sounds together, and then you have to put words together, and then you have to remember all of that to put a sentence together. And if you can't focus for more than 30 seconds, that's not happening.
Right.
It doesn't really matter how smart you are or how good you are at the specific skills.
Right.
You can't line them up together.
No, right.
Which was his problem. And then also he was starting to feel like a failure. He was just starting to feel horrible, and he was starting to have a really deep aversion to reading. He didn't want to do it because he couldn't do it.
Sure.
Right?
And it makes him feel bad.
And so there was this cycle that was starting.
Sure. Okay.
And it took the irony. So February was when they had the parent-teacher conferences. It was at the very end of February. And we went, and his teacher said, she's like, we've hacked it. We have figured it out. He isn't back up to grade level yet, because they have first grade is split into like 2 levels. There's 1-1 and 1-2. And he was at 1-1. He had finally gotten to 1-1. She was like, we want them to be at 1-2 by now. He's not there yet, but he has it all figured out. Like all of the pieces are in place. And the only thing that he needs now is just coming to school every day.
Yeah, like not a pandemic, maybe. Pandemic would be not the thing that he needs right now. Okay.
Then 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Super dupers. Here we come with a nice pandemic for you and a homeschooling crisis.
And I said to her, I was like, okay, 2 weeks ago when I said, is he going to be ready for 2nd grade?
Yeah.
You said, yes, absolutely. He's great. He's got this. And
now?
I was like, now. And she said, I really don't know.
So did you just say, I'm just gonna let it ride, and we're gonna see where we are. Or did you buckle down? What did you do?
I cried.
You cried. This seems
Lot.
reasonable. Yeah.
I got really, really angry at the universe, at
Sure.
the virus,
Yes, at the virus.
at pretty much
We've
everybody.
all done that. Yes.
We had all worked so hard, right? He has been working so hard, and this is so unfair for him. And that was what led me to the revelation, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay, tell me the revelation that you can relay to others.
The only thing that I can do is take care of him. The only thing that I can do is make sure that he is okay, is make sure that he doesn't have that feeling of failure, is make sure that he comes through this, and quite honestly, traumatic event as okay as possible. I am not a reading teacher expert. I don't know how to teach phonics. I don't have a degree in any of this. I never took an early childhood education class, right? I can't do that. I am an expert in my son. I have a huge amount of experience with anxiety and with trauma and with right. I know that. I can get him through this period as healthily, emotionally and mentally as possible. I can do that. And then I can trust that if he has to do first grade over again,
He's going to really be okay.
He's going to be okay.
He's totally going to be okay. Yeah.
And I think for any grade level that you're at, I'm just going to say it. I was going to try and come up with a nicer way to say this, but here's the thing. We have rising child and teen suicide rates in this country. So is it more important for your child to graduate on time or meet whatever milestone they're supposed to meet, or is it more important for your child to be alive in 2 years?
Right. And to believe really that he's okay. I mean, really it's about what you're putting your stamp of approval on. Like, you know, the only way to come out of this successfully is by staying on track with your schooling. Or is it that the only way to come out of this, you know, successfully is that we feel good about who we are and what we did as a family, or whatever it is, or how we dealt with this challenge. And I think that's valid. I mean, look, nobody came into this thinking this is how it's going to go. So I think the underlying message here is to let go of some of the expectations that you may have had for this particular time, because there are no parameters that are the same as what they were even in February. So, you know, it's important to give yourself permission. And really, you know, you're talking about a delay of a year, you know.
Right. It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. Yeah.
Let your priorities crystallize.
Yes, like what do you really value here? I think that's a good question to ask yourself. Like what do you really value? What do you want your child to value? And look at, you know, when I come out of this, what do I really want my child to believe and know and think? Yes. It's really important.
And remember about this time.
And remember about this time. Yeah,
we're seeing that externally and internally. Like we're seeing, I think part of the push and pull of what we're seeing on a national and state and city government level is, what are our priorities? Right?
Right, exactly.
And a lot of us are really frustrated by things that are happening out there. Well, okay, if we're frustrated on a governmental level, then it's time to look inward and say, well, what are my priorities? What are my actual values? What do I really believe? And have I talked about that with my kids?
Yeah, well, you know, that's really, I mean, talking to our kids about values and priorities and finding out what theirs are is monumentally important at any time.
Yeah.
I would love to know what your top tip is for those who are listening right now. What do you really want to say to the parents, to the moms, about this time and what the most important thing is?
Grace. You have to give yourself more grace than you think is possible. You have to give yourself, and I mean yourself first before anybody else. Right. You have to cut yourself more slack. You have to give yourself more leeway. You have to, every synonym for grace possible, you have got to pour it into yourself. And if that means that all your kids do is watch movies all day, every day for like 4 days in a row while you sleep, cool, do that. I am so serious. If you're not okay, they're not going to be okay.
I know you say that taking care of you is taking care of your family. It is
taking care of them. And that might mean short-term doing things that you don't love to do, right? That might mean short-term more screen time or short-term frozen meals or short-term, like, I don't care. They'll be fine, right? They can eat some crap for a week. They'll be okay.
Right.
So you do whatever you need to do to pour back into yourself. Right. And I've talked to so many moms who say that they just feel ridiculously needy right now. They feel over needy. They feel selfish and greedy because they're like this black hole of need, and nothing seems to fill them up. And I understand that because I've had those feelings too, where I'm like, I just slept. Why am I still tired?
Oh, totally get that. Absolutely. Right?
Yes. Like, I just read my book for an hour. Why am I still resentful of people being in my house? I just, you do a thing, right, that used to be super helpful and now is kind of helpful.
Because all of the parameters have changed. So give yourself grace. Okay. What is the resource of the week? Tell us where we can go to get more information about you and the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, back when this whole thing kind of started, I started doing Thursday video calls with moms, and I recorded all of them, and it's called Parenting Through Pandemic. And each week we had a little bit of a different theme. The first week was really about giving yourself some grace and cutting yourself some slack. And then we talked about trauma. We talked about communication. We've talked about a bunch of different things, and there are 5 weeks worth of videos. They're also all captioned. I put captions on all of them because if other people's kids are anything like my kids, if it looks like I'm reading something, that's fine. As soon as they hear audio, they are on me. It's like sharks with blood in the water.
Good point.
Right? So I made sure that they were all captioned for everybody. And you can get to them. There's a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/pandemic parenting, all lowercase. And you can get it, like, it's completely free. You can watch all of them. You can watch one of them. There's extra resources that are on there. There's some downloads. There's some other experts that I talk to. And so you can reach them through that site. Everything is right there. And you can also get to my website and all that good stuff from there. But that's, I think,
that's perfect.
Really where I tried to
get
my support, right? Just as much as possible. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, and I saw them myself, and you have such an easygoing way of talking to the people who are on the line with you and making them feel like they're seen and heard, and that you have some ideas of what can work for them. And I appreciate you sharing those with us today as well. And I just want to thank you for your insights and your strategies and really talking about giving yourself that grace, giving your kids some room and allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling and know that it's going to affect what you're doing and that it's okay. And that when this year come out of this, that you can look back and say, I gave myself some grace. I allowed feelings to, be seen and heard, and we're going to be stronger for it. So thank you so very much for being on the show today.
Robyn, thank you so much. And I'm just so excited to meet somebody who really gets it.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's it gives me hope for for reaching even more moms and all parents, just to let them know that there are more of us out here than there are of all the people who are telling you that you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
There are more of us.
There you go. And that's a meme, everybody. And thank you. So I've got my takeaways, and sweet friends, I know you have yours. So let's discuss them. Come up on Facebook. You can go to the Dr. Robyn Silverman page, or let's chat about it at drrobynsilverman.com or twitter.com/Dr. Robyn. I'm also on Instagram at Dr. Robyn Silverman. And if you love this podcast, I hope you'll go up to iTunes and rate and review it so other people can hear about these outstanding solutions, use them in their own homes, feel calm with what Graeme has been saying. I truly appreciate it. That's all the time we have for today, my fellow parents, leaders, and educators. Thank you so much for tuning in to How to Talk to Kids About Anything. For more information on books, articles, speaking engagements, or curriculum, please visit drrobynsilverman.com. There's so many great podcasts up there, and the show notes to this podcast will be up there as well. I look forward to weathering the storms and enjoying the sunny side of life together. And please remember, even on the days when you fall short, you've got this. You're here. You're getting the information you need. I know it's not easy, but never forget there's always tomorrow. Parenting is the ultimate do-over. Perhaps you heard something today and you said, my child did have those big feelings and I didn't talk to him about it. I turned the other way. I jumped in the shower. I wish I had said this or done this or let him throw rocks. We get it. We mess up all the time. Parenting is the ultimate do-over. You can do it differently later. Give yourself some grace and take that deep breath. I see you. I'm right there with you. And as there are moments when we doubt our know-how, our choices, and our sweet sanity, please know you're 10 times the parent you think you are. Until next time, this is Dr. Robyn Silverman with How to Talk to Kids About Anything. Please tune in again and keep connecting through conversation. See you next week.
You've been listening to How to Talk to Kids About Anything with Dr. Robyn Silverman. For more information on books, articles, speaking engagements, or curriculum, please visit drrobynsilverman.com.